Well, Tim Sweeney was right. In an interview or an article written 5 days ago, he basically said that developers, not gamers, will decide who wins the game store battle. And he was right. I think ultimately those in the know must far be dwarfed by those not in the know. It's like saying, most gamers are normies. And that's undeniable. In this interview, he basically said that, look, people are going to be mad. Gamers are going to do what they do, but ultimately we have a superior offer. And whether people like it or not, developers are going to go with us. And even though, their software has been accused of a wide variety of things, from copying Steam data and spying on people and stuff like that. It seems like every week there's a new issue with their launcher. It doesn't matter, because you get Games Press, who doesn't like Steam and says stuff like this. Epic says Metro Exodus sold 2.5 times better on Epic Store than Metro Last Light did on Steam. It's not a perfect comparison, but clearly Epic Game Store hasn't hindered Metro Exodus. This argument has no data to back it up. It is an opinion piece being presented as fact. The hypothesis is that, well, because there was a 250% increase in sales from Metro Exodus, it's related to Epic Game Store. It's a false equivalency. You don't know. It could have been 3, 4, 5, or even 10 times higher if you had held it on Steam. The gaming community, myself included, okay, I can tell you with 100% fact, there might be not one person that is watching my video right now. I can't speak for any of you. But I did not buy Metro Exodus because of this, because of how they treated their customers. So I can guarantee you, you lost at least my sale. You would have sold at least one more copy of Metro Exodus had you offered it on both Epic Game Store and Steam. And I think the common rebuttal to people going on Epic Game Store is simply, well, I'll just wait a year. I don't think that's the right answer. I think it's that if you really are mad about the Epic Game Store exclusives, then you should never buy the game. Obviously, some people will sail the high seas. I disavow. However, what people get when people often misrepresent the gaming community's disdain for Epic Games as blind Steam loyalty. And there may be some Steam fans out there that will ignore logic. But this, again, is always a decision about removing choice. When you remove choice from your consumers, they get mad. That's exactly what Metro Exodus did. Now, if 100% of people that said they weren't buying it because of that didn't, okay, you might have an argument. But I know for 100% fact, I did not buy that game because it was on Epic Game Store and not Steam. They should have offered it on both. Now, Steam should probably consider lowering their take and figure out a way to compete with Epic. This isn't all on Epic. In fact, it's the developers that are ultimately making this decision. And then today, we find that Outer Worlds and Control will launch on Epic Game Store, not Steam. Epic will distribute the Outer Worlds, Sinking City, After Party, and Industries of Titan, all with one-year exclusivities. During GDC 2019's Unreal keynote this morning, Epic announced that partners with 2K's private division label to distribute the Outer Worlds and Ancestors, Humankind Odyssey, Ancestors, and the Epic Games Store. PC Gamer has learned that Outer Worlds will also release on the Microsoft Store, but will not appear on stores, any other stores on PC for at least 1 year. That includes Steam. The Outer Worlds quickly became one of the most anticipated games after its announcement in December, an exuberantly sci-fi FPS RPG hybrid from some of the original creators of Fallout. In some ways, it represents the biggest get so far for Epic's growing platform. And Division 2 is probably pretty big too. West played it in December and said the setting has invigorative freshness and personality to the type for this type of game, and I think it's high time we got a campier, more sarcastic Firefly to Mass Effect's wannabe Star Trek. Control will be an Epic Game Store exclusive too. Control is a surreal third-person shooter from the Max Payne and Quantum Break developer Remedy. And Andy's enthusiastic preview last year makes it sound like promising return for one of the most interesting studios in gaming. In addition, Epic announced that Ubisoft will continue to release their games on Epic Game Store after Division 2. The specific games are yet to be announced, and it snagged a few other high-profile games like After Party, The Sinking City, and Industries of Titan. Epic also mentioned that Epic Store exclusives will be purchasable through the Humble Store as another option for customers. Epic's strategy of challenging Steam by negotiating for exclusives has been controversial, but clearly plenty of developers are happy to make the deal with Fortnite Unreal Engine creator leverage favorable at 88-12 revenue. Well, the revenue split is obviously one big deal, but what we saw is it's not just about that. When we talked about that developer that boned all of their backers for that XCOM, what is it called? Phoenix something? Forget. Epic Games paid him $2 million up front. And he only raised about $2 million on his own. So he could afford to refund 100% of his backers and still make money. That's the type of deals that Epic is doing. Now, their store is trash, but I will argue that any other store is trash too. Steam is the closest thing we've got. It has its own problems too. But, you know, I look at my desktop now. I've got Uplay, I've got Origin, I've got Steam. I'm going to have Epic Games at some point because we've lost. I don't see the value passing on to the consumer like we did early on. When they made the move, they at least tried to make games a little bit cheaper for the consumer so they could say, oh, well, the gamer's saving money too. But most of these new exclusives aren't passing those savings on to the customer anyway. So I would greatly expect titles from Ubisoft to continue to be Epic Game Store exclusives. Titles from just about any third-party developer out there are going to continue to be Epic Game Store exclusives. Because when Epic Game Store can't win on the revenue split, they're just throwing money at it, just to take it away from Steam. And it's good business. It's exactly what I would do if I were them. Eventually, when you have news like PC Games coming out saying that Metro Exodus did so good, people are going to read this and think, well, everything did fine. I can't disprove this because they're basically, you can't disprove a hypothetical. Well, I suppose I could. You can. But in this case, there's no way to know. But you get articles like this, which are basically shilling for Epic Game Store. It's really about your games and not about the store you sell it on, said Steve Allison, head of Epic Game Store. I have a feeling that given Metro's success and Epic's more generous revenue sharing plan, more and more developers will be inclined to believe that. I don't think he's wrong. I think this battle is lost. And as gamers, we have to decide to reluctantly play these games, or we can just skip them. There are thousands of options, hundreds of similar options out there for people to play in current technology, thousands of games from the back catalogs, thousands of games in retro consoles. Look at all the exclusives launched today. After Party, Control, The Cycle, Dauntless, Industries of Titan, Journey to the Savage Planet, Kind and the Chump Squad, Phoenix Point, screw you, that's the Phoenix Point, that's who it is, The Sinking City, Spellbreak, Solar Ash. We can add Outer Worlds. They're also adding backed catalog titles from Ubisoft are confirmed for Epic's free game program. Epic is not screwing around. Take-Two Interactive's Private Division, bringing Outer Worlds. Award-winning studio Quantic Dream will bring its critically acclaimed portfolio Heavy Rain Beyond, Two Souls, and Detroit Becoming Human to PC for the first time, exclusively to Epic Games. Epic Games is not just putting a toe in the water. They're here to stay and they're here to dominate. Now, Steam had better make serious business changes here, because they're going to get BTFO'd in like less than a year at this rate. Eventually, people will crack. Eventually, people will just say, yeah, I'm boycotting too many games. And I'll understand. Because in a world where we all have limited free time, if you really want to play Outer Worlds, then you should just play it. Video games are supposed to be fun, all right? If you really want to play it, pick it up from the Microsoft Store. Don't go through the Epic Game Store. Or there will be people that sail the high seas. Obviously, I disavow that. But Epic Game Store is not going anywhere, regardless of how much we all kick and scream. I don't like them. But at what point am I going to have to cave? I have to cover some of these games too. And YouTubers will use that excuse, right? Oh, I've got to cover the Division 2, so I just got to use the Epic Game Store. Or I've got to cover the Outer Worlds, so I'll just use the Epic Game Store. I don't like it, but I've got to use it. I mean, I'll just skip it. I think waiting a year doesn't really do a lot of damage, but it's at least a better option. Most of our backlogs, I've talked about for months how I've got Divinity Original Sin sitting here. Still haven't opened it. Still haven't finished Dragon Quest. I'll live. That's the reality that these developers are going to have to learn. The gaming community can be patient. We just have to be patient. We have to embrace other options. Third-party options, DRM-free options, indie options, back catalog options, retro options. If we really want to make a dent. But based on what we saw at GDC today, Epic Game Store's dominating. It's too big to fail at this. They've got the money, they've got the deals, they've got the clout. Now we can stand against it. And I absolutely support people being patient and putting games in their backlog, or waiting, or finding the games other ways, or buying it from the Microsoft Store. You're not really losing anything. It's just a game. There are other amazing games for all of us to play. And this is just the start. I think you're going to see hundreds of Epic exclusive games in the next year. Steam has to respond. Are you hearing me, Valve? You must respond. It's time. You cannot wait any longer. Your fandom is loyal to Steam. But Valve, you've got to do it. You've got to match this revenue. And if you can't, well, you've got to find a way to offer these people more customers. You've got to rally your customer base to not buy these games on Epic then. Because if you can't stop this, you're going to lose significantly. I'm pulling for you, Valve. I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. We'll talk to you again real soon.